Hello, guess who's back again? And to, and now I'm going to talk about quite a few topics. A new thing that I've also a new term which I've discovered. It is a great term from the Andrew Carrington Hitchcock show. I'll get into that in a moment. Um, and going back and rolling back onto also some things that I've mentioned before. And one of them was just the something I'd like to keep re-looking at and bounce that idea around in people's minds more is the areas in South Africa which are routinely under attack, and how there are certain areas which have evaded any sort of significant attack or even protest action when under the guise of protest action much damage is done in South Africa to certain factories and industries, while the true billionaires of the country, corporate industries are never touched. You got to keep looking at the way the EFF conduct themselves in certain circumstances. Clifton, for example, where although it was pretty disturbing and disgusting, the only sacrifice that was made was a sheep. Mr. Sheep made the sacrifice there. Whereas in a lot of the other kind of protest actions and the underlings and how they behave in other areas, been a lot more than that that's been sacrificed. People's vehicles, people's businesses, people have had rocks thrown through their windows. You've got to look at this. It's not really just coincidence. Uh, when it's always in a certain area and other areas are completely untouched. So look at the areas that are completely untouched and ask yourself why and how. And, I don't buy this because they just got security and ADT and they can afford it. That's one factor, but I don't buy that either because huge factories in Johannesburg or other areas where they've had protest action and some pretty strong ADT presence and things like that, they've gotten away with a hell of a lot. And also, why have they always been targeting those areas, but they've never really targeted certain other areas in the country? And I'll leave that for out there for people to really look into and really meditate on. In the meantime, it's just interesting to notice how Brexit has been rolled out, and it will be interesting going forward. I'm not sure how they're going to play it. They are actually actioning on it. I fear that they're going to be shrewd and like they were with actually granting Brexit. I mean, public had to just about beg for it to be granted. And they delayed this whole thing massively, which is, suspect in itself. It just shows that actually the people have not got the power still. And we still, however it's rolled out, we still have to acknowledge that no transfer of power has taken place, which is what counts at the end of the day. You can be humid all you like, but when they control the purse strings of the nation, and it's not the ethnic people of that nation that control the purse strings, do you really have power? I mean, you have to kind of think about that. Also, interesting to note is the kind of behavior, mob-esque behavior of old Harvey Weinstein walking around with his walker, which is exactly what you saw in the film, Goodfellas at the end there when they were pulling in the mob bosses and suddenly they were on breathers and one of them has a heart attack and has an asthma attack or whatever, and he has old Harvey Weinstein in his walker. And apparently he also threw a little attack when they gave him his sentence to send him to, I think, Rikers Island or some proper jail. And actually it worked because currently he's not sitting in jail, which is very, slippery. And it just seems like this type of Talmudic justice, if you understand the Talmud, it's that, we are animals. The rest of us are not human worthy. But anyway, your Talmudic justice is where we don't get justice. We get mocked, basically. Part of the process of torturing us is to actually just not let justice be seen to be done. And which happened with Epstein. It's very suspect 3-hour videotape in a prison which is missing 3 hours of videotape. This is like so suspect. I think he had enough time to pack a bag and take his favorite clothes and also do the old makeup for the autopsy pictures and what have you. This is Talmudic justice, if you ask me. This is what this is. We left thirsting for justice. We left demoralized and deflated as such. And it's kind of like, well, like the king of old, they had a whipping boy. Basically, they're so above this kind of thing that don't you dare even think that they get paid, in the same kind of token as we pay for crimes if we commit crimes as such. And this is Talmudic nature of this whole thing. So when you look at that and what's taken place and what's transpired, it kind of makes sense. Another term that I've newly learned is the Zionist usury footprint. And we mustn't be afraid of our eco footprint, but think about your Zionist footprint. And I think this is a brilliant term. And to decrease your Zionist footprint as such. One of the things I would say is, Hollywood. Stop watching Hollywood would be number one. I mean, I think we've had enough evidence now from that to see that it's totally part of the deep corruption that's going on in this world. Adhere to the actual 10 commandments, not the newly invented 10 commandments that are given us, racist, Islamophobe, sexist, bigot, anti-Semite, which is probably number one at the top of the list currently. But actively look to reject the new 10 commandments and adhere to the correct 10 commandments, the truly politically correct 10 commandments. Pray in the name of Jesus, because a lot of these politicians, I noticed, if they ever become religious, they pray in the name of God or whatever, but not in the name of Jesus. And I think that's a cop-out, as far as I'm concerned. Abstain from CNN, BBC, and pornography. I think they're all controlled by the same entity. Pornography, by the way, it's a weapon. That's something that you have to listen to Michael Jones on this issue, and he explains it very well, how it's been actually used against us and their enemies because it works. It's a way of degrading the nation, and it works. Along with feminism, along with the divorce campaign that was passed down through movies and I think it was Breakfast at Tiffany's. I don't know. It's ancient films, way before my time. But you have to watch Devon Stack's movie reviews for that. Um, yeah. So another one: don't take bank loans and don't buy things on credit if you can help it. In fact, never buy things on credit. Um, but we also that's something that is very difficult because again they're flooding our lands with in countries with people who will just buy things for that on credit because they want it now and this give me everything now kind of mentality. It's difficult um, to stop it and to stop feeding the machine as such, but the usury machine. And as Andrew, as Michael Jones says, so the bankers and wankers, it's basically the usury machine because you know we basically becoming globo homo through the bankers and wankers who essentially get us involved in wars that we don't want to be involved in and they have no benefit to us whatsoever. I mean, all these horribly mutilated and destroys lives of soldiers in America and Britain who the ones that were maimed, it's almost as bad as just being dead. They've lost all their limbs or whatever. They've been led to believe that they're heroes. But what? Do they have free oil? Do they get free gas at the pumps? What does America actually gain from this? Everybody, they keep saying it's for oil, it's for oil. And for sure, there is that aspect in there where Enron's got their fingers in there and all the big oil. But ultimately, it's not for that. They've been manipulated and we've been wrangled by a group of bankers and wankers per se. And they're controlling, and they are, that's also Talmudic, where it says, basically kill the best of them. And that's what the soldiers are. They're taking the absolute cream of the crop, sending them over there. There's IEDs. There's not even a war. It's not even really a normal war that you can fight because these guys disappear into the thick of the crowds or whatever it is there, and just a whole lot of people get blown to bits. But think about what has been gained by it. Are those soldiers and their families multi-millionaires? And at least there's got to be something. Did they stop an invasion from Iraq? Were they coming on ships and nuclear submarines from Iraq to blow up the USA? Did they save the entire world, perhaps, from Iraq's nuclear arms? What's been gained by this whole thing? I don't even. They don't even have cheaper gas. It's still more expensive than it was in the 80s. So really, what is it supposed to all be about? So that's basically where I'm going to stop now and just gather some thoughts on those issues and think about it and like it, put comments or share the video. But the main thing is I'll be back.